Am I the a-hole for kicking my mother-in-law out of the house and not letting her speak to my husband? I, 24 female, am currently going through a very bad miscarriage. I have endometritis, which is painful in general, and I'm losing twins, so it's a miserable situation. To make matters worse, my husband, 28 male, had an emergency surgery a week ago to remove the lower lobe of his left lung because a benign tumor he had there exploded and we didn't know there was a tumor there in the first place. He's been at home for 2 days now, but he's in a lot of pain and sleeping most of the time. My mother-in-law is a bother. We got married young, 1922, and I always knew that I was going to struggle with fertility, and because of this, she hated me. I don't think this is racism, but she also made it clear that she wished my husband married someone from his own ethnicity, he's Arab, rather than marrying me, a Somali woman. We are usually very, very low contact with her, but when we told father-in-law about my husband's surgery, he told mother-in-law. Mother-in-law offered to stay with us to help care for my husband while I'm recovering from the miscarriage, and I stupidly agreed. She came over the day my husband was released, Saturday, and I kicked her out today. In this context, it's Monday. She was being pleasant on Saturday, and on Sunday I was asleep for most of the day because I couldn't deal with my cramps, and I took some sleeping pills. Today I was sitting with her in the living room, and she was asking me questions about how my husband was feeling on the days leading up to the tumor exploding. I said he was fine, and then she said, "Do you think the miscarriage would have caused the tumor to explode?" I asked her to elaborate, and she said, "You constantly lose your children. The stress of you having this miscarriage probably caused the tumor to explode." We got into an argument over this, and she kept insisting it was my fault. At this point, I decided to kick her out. She started shouting that I couldn't do that, and she wanted to speak to my husband. He was sleeping, and I locked our bedroom door so she couldn't disturb him. I called father-in-law, and he came to pick her up. Since then, I've been bombarded with calls calling me evil and vindictive. Apparently, I should have been understanding because her son had a life-threatening health emergency, and she was emotional. I think my own pain and stress has been clouding my judgment on the situation, and I didn't have to kick her out. Am I the a-hole? In my opinion, OP is not the a-hole. The audacity her mother-in-law had to casually ask such a terrible question baffles me. Just because you're emotional doesn't mean you can be, in mother-in-law's own words, evil and vindictive. She deserved to be kicked out. I hope OP and her husband are doing much better now. Am I the a-hole for making my teens 16 male and 14 female share a bedroom? Throwaway account. My husband unexpectedly passed away a few months ago, and I became a single mother to 3 kids, age 16 male, 14 female, and 2 female. Due to the significant decrease of income, I was no longer able to continue renting where we were, and all I can afford is a 1-bedroom apartment. Currently, I'm sleeping in the living room with my youngest, 2 female. I gave the bedroom to my 16 male and 14 female and asked them to share in the meanwhile. I tried adding a privacy screen in the middle so they feel like they have their own space, but they are telling me that this isn't acceptable. Each of my kids used to have their own rooms, so this is a massive change for them. I've been looking for a better paying job for months and so far have had no luck. I can't get a second job because I can't afford to pay someone to care for my daughter, 2 female, outside daycare hours. Neither of my kids, 16 male and 14 female, are willing to help, and they say my youngest is not their responsibility. I know the situation isn't ideal, but I don't know what else I can do. For the past month, I've not been eating anything for 2 days a week and just telling the kids I'm trying out the fasting trend for weight loss purposes. But the truth is, I can't afford to feed us all, and I've been using the food bank. Prior to this, I had never had to use food bank services before, and I am so thankful that it exists. I am both thankful and deeply ashamed at the same time. Would I be the a-hole for telling my teens that they must share the bedroom? Would it be better if I suggested my son sleep in the living room with me and have both my female kids share the bedroom instead? I do not live in the US, but it is not common for teenagers of opposite sex to share a bedroom. This is something I do absolutely recognize. Edit. Gosh, I really wasn't expecting so many responses when I checked back. Thank you, everyone. All this time, I did feel it would be unfair to put adult problems on my kids. However, I will be giving them a surface level talk about our finances. I'll also be bringing them with me to the food bank. Hopefully, they'll be more understanding. Edit 2. The bedroom is larger than the living room. I am able to fit 2 single beds into the bedroom, and the kids have space to store their clothes while still having the room divider in the middle. The living room is smaller. I am currently having my youngest and my own clothes stored in the hallway due to lack of space. It is right next to the washroom and kitchen, so there is a lot of foot traffic. The living room also doubles as a dining space because there is no dining room. So, Reddit agreed that OP was not the a-hole, and I also agree. The 14-year-old and 12-year-old are old enough to know what's going on. OP doesn't need to shoulder everything on her own. I just hope her kids understand and they help her out a little bit more. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my mom now that her husband is sick and throwing the past in her face when she pleaded with me? My mom and I, 25 female, have a contentious relationship. We have been mostly estranged for the last 7 years. I say mostly because she has made some effort to stay in touch while I faded away. My dad died when I was 4. Mom and him were not married, but they were together. She leaned heavily on my dad's family for a couple of years. Then she moved us away so she could start a better life for us. After moving, she met John and married him. I was told more than once by John and my mom that John was now my father. And I was told to call him Dad, refer to him as Dad with others, and not to correct anyone who used the term Dad/father. I was to correct those who said he was my stepdad. I didn't want to do this, but I was punished, and John yelled at me multiple times for disrespecting his love. And I was berated and told he was stepping up to take me on as his daughter, and the least I could do is to respect him as my father. When my mom gave John children, it became very clear he never saw me as his. I was treated differently. I was not given the same anything. Yet the rules remained in place that I called John Dad and would get punished for any instance of not. Mom always took his side, always backed him up, always agreed that he deserved some kind of respect for this stuff. I still have some bitterness over this. I didn't want John to be my father, but at the very least, if I'm going to be forced to address him as such and to correct people who spoke the truth, I felt like I should have been treated better at least. But that didn't happen. And I moved out the day I turned 18 and stopped speaking to or seeing my mom and John. She would reach out. Sometimes I would read or listen to her speak, but I felt good not having them around. Now John has been diagnosed with a neurological condition, and my mom is caring for him. She asked me to come and help her, to help him, to help out their children. I refused. She told me she needed me, they need me, and I'm their daughter. I told her I didn't care. I wouldn't help, and after everything they had done, they deserved nothing from me. I told her she failed me as a mother, and as far as I was concerned, they were already dead and buried and nothing to do with me. She said I was being unfair, holding on to the past too much and lacking in compassion. She tried to tell me to think of the good times. I told her she failed me. She forced me to say stuff I didn't want to say as a kid in order to appease her husband, who didn't treat me like his kid anyway. A family friend reached out after the disagreement and told me I should be ashamed, and while they were imperfect back then, they are still my family, and I piled on a woman who's doing the hardest job imaginable, caring for a sick loved one. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole in my opinion. I agree with OP that her mom failed her. She forced her daughter to call a stranger dad and didn't try to make sure that he loved and treated her like his own. OP doesn't owe any of them anything. Her choices are her own now. Thanks for listening. If you have any thoughts or you'd like to share a story, leave it in the comment section below. Till next time, everyone.